Crazy Gamer fans, I am the Crazy Gamer, and welcome to Crazy Gamer Models, and I do models. How is everybody doing today? I just need to get a couple things left to set up on the stream here. Make sure I have the comments where I can see them. All right. Just need to... Hopefully everything's coming through here. Okay. All right. And is everything loaded on the stream? I'm not getting anything on my end here. Oh, no, it's working. Okay. So today's stream, what is today's stream about? It is about Photo Etch Crazy's Way. And this is not an expert's opinion on Photo Etch. This is how I do Photo Etch. As you can see, I have a wide range of Photo Etch on the table. And I'm going to get into that shortly. First, I just want to say that this is a live stream of this. And I have to do two things before we 100% get started. So, let me just announce the stream in my groups. And hopefully this works. Sometimes it doesn't like me to do multiple things at once on the computer. Okay. Now. Okay, so here we go. Now that's all out there, and hopefully we can get some people into the group. Now. Welcome to Crazy Gamer Models. I am the Crazy Gamer and I do models. This is going to be a live stream, and also it will be released as an edited video basically talking about Photo Etch. And as you can see, there is a wide range of Photo Etch on my table. So, first off, I want to talk about my email. I have set up an email for the channel. It is crazygamermodels@gmail.com. One word, crazygamermodels@gmail.com. I would like to give a big thank you to all my subscribers and all my supporters. I would like to thank my Patreons. Thank you so much for your support. You know who you are. And I would also, if you so choose to support the channel in that way, you can visit my Patreon page. The link is in the description below, along with my email is there too. And you can email me questions or any kind of video topic ideas. If you see something on one of my videos and you want some more information on it, you can send me an email. I plan on doing, once I start getting emails, I plan on doing on Fridays called Feedback Friday, where throughout the week on my videos I will propose questions and ask for feedback on different things. And then on Fridays I will do a video, possibly a live stream of all the questions I received through the comments or through the email. So that is that. Now, Photo Etch. I am going to wait a little bit here for some more people to show up. Oh, John's here. Hey, John, how's it going? So, that's weird, but it's not My chat's not showing up. There it is. Well, that's a huge delay on my chat. Okay, so as I said, this episode is going to be about photo etch. And as you can see, there is a wide range of photo etch related items on the table. Now, I have this, doing this two different ways here. Oh, that's not going to work. Okay, I'm doing this two different ways. I got a live stream camera going, and then I'm also recording this with a better detail-oriented camera with a higher definition that I am going to release an edited version of this on the channel in future date. So let's talk about photo etch. Now, I want to preface this saying I'm not an expert on photo etch. I've only been doing photo etch for about 2.5 years. Who would ever want to see that? Thanks for taking my request to do this. It will help once I get my first set. Yeah, photo etch. It depends on what you get for photo etch. Photo etch is a wide range of difficulty and styles and sometimes materials. But let's talk about what is photo etch. Photo etch is a thin metal. In modeling, most of the time it's brass. Sometimes it's a nickel brass, and sometimes it's stainless steel or a steel alloy. And basically what they do is they sandwich this thin piece of metal, like say this piece in here. They sandwich this in without any cutouts on it. It's a solid piece. They sandwich it between two printed, basically transparencies that have basically black lines printed on them, very dark. And then they sandwich between there, and then they expose this black brass sheet that has a photosensitive chemical on it. They expose it under the light, and it hardens all the areas where the black lines are not. And basically, the black lines are the etch spots. So they take off the mask, and then they put it in a etching chemical. They can vary. I'm not going to get into etching chemicals. And they etch it for X amount of time. And then you get your etched parts. And you can do indentions and different things by varying the thickness of the ink. It's a complex process, but photo etch is pretty cool. You can do a lot of cool things with the photo etch process. You can even get photo etch kits to do at home, where you can micromark cells, a kit you can do at home. I know if you want the whole set with the chemicals, you have to order in the U.S. They don't ship overseas unless that has changed. And photo etch is more than just parts for models. It can be models themselves, or it can be stencils for wheel mask and stencil type mask and things like that for models. These right here are a nickel steel, these silvery ones, and these are basically paint masks for different German vehicles. And then here is a wheel mask. This is made out of the brass, so it's a little more flexible, and you can mask wheels with it. And I believe all this Alliance Model Works stuff that is up here is going to be brass. There's some resin added on pieces in there, but we'll get to that. But then you have, these are all mostly standalone kits, and I'll show you what one of those look like in a minute. And then you have these add-on kits that you can get for one of your models, and this happens to be for a Panther A for TACOM, and it's a Big Ed kit. It's from Edward, and it basically contains some photo etch. So we'll go ahead and open this up here. It's not opened yet. Get this open here. I have this open. And your photo etch, it's flexible. It can be bent, folded, rolled, um, shaped in all kinds of different shapes. And we're going to get into all of what I am capable of doing. There's some things that I have not learned yet, but I'm constantly practicing. And here's some examples of what would come in like one of these kits. Now this is right here. This is a painted photo etch. This is like a nickel steel, and it is painted, and it is an interior kit for a tank. It has the different radios for a tank. It has the command radios, and then the actual radios, and the gauges, and just a bunch of different printed parts, or painted, pre-painted parts. And then it also comes with ammo boxes and different parts for TACCOM's Panther A kit. And then it also comes with some exterior parts, which are going to be your tool clamps and your tool racks. And then this one comes with Zimmerit. And it basically, if you want to add Zimmerit to your Panther, which 3 of TACCOM's kits don't have Zimmerit, and that's actually what I'm working on one of my TACCOM kits. You can see there is some photo etch Zimmerit on this Panther A here, and I'll get into how that was attached in a little bit. So that would be a kit add-on. Now you can get kit add-ons for aircraft, for boats, all kinds of different sets. You can get big Ed sets, which have basically all the upgrades from Edward. How easy does it break? Very easily. But I'm going to get into ways that you can make it easier to work with to where it's not going to be as breakable. So, and that's going to get in. I got that on the list. It's number 14. We're getting there. So, and okay, so we talked about the different types. Oh, okay, and then these are ready cut. These are like bolt heads, washers, claps and buckles, and then these are separate tool clamps. These are aftermarket kits from Alliance Model Works. I have a lot of their product. I love their photo etch. It bends nice. It's durable. So you can get photo etch in all different kinds of things. So that's like add-ons separately from like a kit that's designed for a specific kit. Like this is designed for 1/35th scale World War II tanks. So it'll cover basically any kit. And now's a good time to talk about how they're connected to each other. I'm going to use this template as an example here of what it looks like. I want to show you. Now, this has a protective plastic coating over this, covering over this, and if you look, it's going to be hard to see on the live stream camera, but there is fret. This is a fret, and then there are fret connecting points right here, 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 and here that hold the pieces into the outer, basically the scrap part of the fret, and you need to cut that out, and we'll go over that when we talk about tools. But that's how your standard photo etch comes. It's on a fret. You have to cut it out and things like that. But they have, Alliance Model Works has something called Ready Cut, and that's what this is. They're not connected to the fret. They're basically in between some sticky plastic, and you just cut out around it with a knife and peel off the plastic, and there's no cleanup or anything like that. So that's the Ready Cut. They make a variety of Ready Cut stuff. So that's the different types. And then there's photo etch kits. Like this is a 1/700 dockyard diorama accessory. It's basically 1/700 scale trains. And let's see if I can show you that this little person, these are people. These are little bitty photo etch people. You can see that, they're tiny. So this is all types of photo etch. So let's put this aside for a minute, and we're going to get into these here shortly. But I want to talk about tools and the different tools I use and things like that. So first, we're going to talk about cutting the photo etch from the fret. Now, you have a couple options. This one's a piece. This is a glass cutting board right here. And it's what I use. I use a glass cutting board to cut my photo etch off. You never want to cut it on one of these cutting mats. Okay, I take that back. I'm not going to say you never want to cut it on a cutting mat, because someone will tell me they cut it all the time and it works great. You can bend the photo etch and damage the small parts if you cut on a cutting mat. I use a glass cutting board. It does dull the blades of the scalpel pretty quickly, but they're cheap, and I like the performance I can get for it. You can buy sets where you cut on a piece of acrylic, which they're expensive, but you can make your own. Now this right here is a piece of acrylic. It's not very thick. I think it's 1/8 inch thick. But basically it's got blue on it. I'm going to leave the blue so you can see it. I peeled it off so it's flat, and then I cut a piece of acrylic and I stuck some 2-part epoxy on there so you can hold down the photo etch and then you can cut it out. And they sell kits like this that come with a piece of basically acrylic and a little holder to where you can hold it down and cut the parts out. And I find that this is pretty useful, but I made this for less than $2 probably, and the kits are somewhere around $30 or $40 to cut it. So, or you can use a glass cutting board. I still use the piece to hold it down on the glass cutting board just so the pieces don't fly off into the fray. And I'm actually looking to make another one so I can have 2. So let's talk about cutting it out and what I use. Now there's many different options for cutting it out. I'm going to start with the different scalpel blades. This right here is a number 15 blade. It is rounded and it's small, so you can, get in there and you can rock it onto the piece of fret, and it cuts it pretty easily. Also works great on the glass. And then you can also use a number 10 blade, which is rounded and works great for cutting. What's going on, Tank Pressure? How's it going? Yeah, P is super scary. It scared the crap out of me, and then I bought some of these hard kits. So, you can use this. It has a nice rocking action. I wouldn't recommend the pointed blades. It works, but sometimes the pieces are so tight-knit on the fret, which you'll see in a minute, that you can't get in there and get the angle to cut it out. So that's why I use scalpels, because I can swap the blades out. A box of scalpels is less than $10 over here. So scalpel blades anyways, and you get like 100. So you can use the acrylic, your blades will last longer, or you can use the glass. It won't last as long, but I think I prefer the glass myself personally. But that's your 2 options on cutting on. Now, if you don't want to go the scalpel cutting out method, there are a couple of other methods here. These are Xuron photo etch shears. Basically, little clippers here, little photo etch shears. You can cut out the parts with these. I'll show you how they work. I have a longer, pointier, and a shorter, stubbier set. They're made by Xuron, so they're really good. This is basically, if you get that stainless steel photo etch stuff, you need to cut it with these. I did a review of some RB production scribing tools where I had to basically cut them out with these because the scalpel blade had no effect on the on it. So that's basically cutting out the photo etch, and all this is going to be demonstrated coming up. We're going to hopefully have no issues doing a 1/700th scale piece of product. So that's that. Okay, now what do we have here? Let's talk about some other tools. After you cut them off of the fret, you need to clean up the burr that is left. And the only thing I recommend for this is Tamiya's diamond file. It's actually their photo etch file. I don't use anything else. This thing's fantastic. You can use sanding sticks. You can use other files, but I have this. I only use it on photo etch. I keep it in its little pouch here, and I don't have any problems. I think it works great. So that's cleaning up the edges of the photo etch, and then of course, dealing with photo etch, you're going to need tweezers. So good pointy tweezers for picking up and dealing with the photo etch. It's always good to have. For gluing, I tend to use glue loopers, which are these guys right there. See what a glue looper looks like. And then these are made by Flexifile. It's basically a sewing needle with the top of the eye cut off, and it works great for super glue, which we'll see later. You can make one of these with a pin vise and a sewing needle and a Dremel, and it's basically free. So we won't show that today, but that is what you can do, and they make great glue applicators. You can also use a needle or a very small piece of pin wire, depending on the size of your photo etch and how much glue you need down. This is a bent airbrush needle, and that's what I use for applying some glue. So that's glue application. Now let's talk about another form of adhesion, and that is solder. I use a TS80 soldering iron. It's USB-C powered. It works great. It gets up hot enough to put the solder on. If you're going to solder, make sure you use flux. I use a tacky flux because it does good. I like it. I like it also in the syringe, so I can add extra and put on what I want. Just because if you have solder that has resin in the middle, still use flux. My solder's on a spool here, and I use super fine solder, and there's really not much flux in there. You can see how small that is. That's the solder I use, and you don't need much. And then the flux helps wick it into the joint. What's going on, Love Minis? JD Rose, how's it going? Okay, so that's soldering and flux. Now let's talk about bending, because you're going to have to bend the photo etch. And sometimes there's aids in bending on the photo etch itself. Sometimes they're not. Let's talk about simple bending. Tweezers, you can use tweezers to bend, or you can use bending pliers. These are a pair of Xuron bending pliers. They're nice and square. They meet up nice and flush. Xuron make fantastic hand tools, and I recommend them. They're durable, they're true, and they just make fantastic hand tools. So you can use these for bending, and then Tamiya makes bending pliers. They have a long nose bending plier and a short nose bending plier. They're good. if you can get them on eBay cheap and wait for them to get here in shipping, they're reasonably priced. Other than that, they're super expensive. Make sure if you're buying them on eBay, be careful. Sometimes when you close them, they won't match up, and you don't know if they don't match up like these pliers. They don't quite match up square. You can see that there. So if you buy them at a hobby store, just check them out and make sure they close square, so that you'll have perfect bends. And if you're just doing tank kits or simple aircraft and maybe some small boat stuff, just some bending pliers is basically all you really need for manipulating your photo etch, and some tweezers. You can bend with tweezers really, really well. But if you do need to do some more complex long bends to where or you have to make multiple bends like a box or things like that, Trumpeter makes photo etch benders. They make 3 sizes. They make a small, medium, and large. If you don't need one this large, I recommend the medium, because on the back it has spots to make grab bars. And they work pretty simple. You unscrew it and you place the piece under there and you bend it up. You can use a razor blade, or they come with these overly thick plastic lifters. They work, but they're a little thick, and if you're doing delicate parts, I'd recommend either a scalpel blade or a razor blade. And I normally use a razor blade. As you can see, I have my razor blade on my medium one because that's the one I mostly use. And then you have different ways you can manipulate the bender. You can turn it, and you basically can use all 4 sides. Like if you have a complex bend, you can rotate it and be able to perform all the bends. And if you have a small, little, tiny bend you need to make, you can use, like if you need the bigger one, you can make it on one of these, and it works the same way. It's got springs in there that lift it up. You slide the photo etch, line it up with the line, lock it down, and then you can slide in and bend it up. So that's benders. Now, that would be for bending 90 degrees and various straight angles. Sometimes you have to curve parts and things like that. And the best way that I know of to curve parts is to take a sponge. I like this sanding sponge. It's just a sanding sponge, but it's kind of dense. And then I have another sanding sponge that's a little softer. When you squeeze it, it kind of divots in. You kind of got to experiment with sanding sponges. You can use a piece of foam to do that also. Depending on the thickness, it's going to do your bending. You can also use small pieces. You can use a sanding stick, and that normally works pretty good. But what you do is you take whatever diameter rod, these are just brass rods in various diameters, and you would put the piece of photo etch down, and then you would just roll it across, and it'll create a curve. And how much you press down and how hard you push when you roll it is going to be your curve. It takes practice. I have not mastered it yet. It takes me a lot of tries to get it what I need. You can do it on the different surfaces. I like these sanding foams because the piece doesn't really move. Kind of grips it, and then you can cut strips off and do whatever you want to do. So that's that kind of bending. So that would be making curves and rounded, like if you're doing railings on a ship. It would be very useful to have a way to roll or bend your photo etch. It's actually, if you're doing handrails on a ship, you're definitely going to need to do that. So that covers tools. If you guys can think of tools that I have forgotten to mention, you let me know. because that's it. Now we're going to talk about glues. I've already showed you glue applicators. Now I'm going to show you different types of glues. You can use PVA glue if it's not going to be any kind of moved high stress point glue joint. You can use microcrystal clear canopy glue. You can glue photo etch with them. I don't particularly glue a lot of photo etch with PVA glue, but it sometimes has its uses. You can go to the extreme and you can use a 2-part liquid epoxy. This is 15-minute mid-cure from Bob Smith Industries. It's a 2-part epoxy. You mix equal parts, and then you have about 15 minutes of working time, and it will clean up with alcohol. That is how I glued on the Zimrit on my Panther, because super glue was going to set too quick, and I had to line it up very precisely, and there were some fit issues. So I actually used 30-minute set epoxy, and I clamped it down, and then I walked away. So that is nice tank pressure. So that's basically that on the 2-part epoxy. And then you have your various super glues. You have thin, thick, and medium. I prefer Star Bond. It's a more durable bond, and it's not as brittle, I believe. But you can also use Zap-A-Gap. I sometimes mix like my thick with my thin to get a consistency I'm looking for. Sometimes I mix medium and thick. Need to get a tool holder into the toolbox. PE on PE glue recommendations. Oh, if you're going to glue PE onto PE, you're going to want to use super glue or solder it. You can solder it, or I'd recommend super glue. And then you can activate the super glue and let it set super quick. I mainly use super glue. If you have a way to fixture it, you can use the epoxy. Super glue is the way to go. But if you're making a box or a seat for an aircraft cockpit, soldering is going to be the way to go. Or fenders on a tank, you're going to want to solder that. I'm not the best at soldering PE. There are some fantastic videos on YouTube on soldering PE, and I will leave it up to someone more capable of soldering PE than me hacking my way through it. So that's going to cover your tools, your glues, your bending, and now I'm going to do a little bit of PE action here. We're going to see what we can get into here. Something that's not too difficult. Well, we'll start with something simple. Alright, so this is PE from my King Tiger, the build review that I'm doing. Let me get to the page I need. So here we go. And there's the PE. So basically, it calls it out on a sheet, and I need, in this particular case, I need TP12. It's just a simple piece of photo etch that needs a 90-degree bend on it. So let us take out the photo etch. As you can see, I've already cut out some pieces on this photo etch. And then they're numbered on here, and then you can see the little fret marks, and I'll show you that. So we need number 12, which is this one right here. So what I'm going to do to cut this out without an optimizer, so I'm going to use the glass, because That's normally what I use. So I'm going to take and I normally have all these tools places. I just pulled everything out so I could grab it instantly. So I was a little more prepped for the video than just reaching around the camera and everything. So I'm going to take my little clear hold down piece here, and I'm going to take piece 12, which is here. Make sure everybody can see. No, I can't see it. And I'm going to line it up with the edge of the part, the edge of the fret there, and I'm going to hold it down. I technically don't need to hold down a little piece like this, but as you can see, these little casings for the back of the ammunition, if I tried to cut one of them off without holding it down, it would ping off and be lost. So what I'm going to do is, along the edge of the part I want, I'm going to place my knife blade. I have to get in here. And then I'm just going to roll my knife blade, and then it just clicks. And this blade is getting dull, and then I'm going to come up to my next one. And see, this one is a tight fit, so this is where having the rounded edge is nice, because I can just use the tip of it. And then we have the last one right here. Now, what you can do, which I can show better now, if you are over top your part more, you can actually angle the blade over the fret a little bit and cut it at an angle so you have less of a cleanup. I didn't feel safe doing that, being so far away from it. Next thing I know, I have a scalpel in my hand and it's on live. And yeah, that's not going to be a thing we want to see. So I'm going to take my file, and you can see a little piece of fret left right there. Hopefully, see on this camera. And now let's see. I probably can actually trim that off. Yeah, I was able to cut it off. So I'm just going to make sure it's all clean. Just take it off in one direction. You don't want to go back and forth, because you just put a divot in there and then it won't be square. You just want to take off the little bit of, I guess, the nub of the fret, the little piece that's left. Now let's take a look at this part where it's going to bend. Now if you take a look here on this part, there is a line right here on this part. And it's not etched all the way through. It's etched about halfway through the photo etch, and that's going to be our bending line. Now, there's two ways you can bend on a bending line. If you're doing a 90 degrees or a little bit more than 90 degrees or less than 90 degrees, you bend, you hold the line facing you and you bend towards you. Now, if you needed to fold this piece over on top of itself, you need to fold away from the bend, the mark on there. So you would hold the mark towards you and fold away from you. So that's only in the case of folding it back on itself. So if you need to fold it completely back on itself, then you bend away from you with the line facing you. Otherwise, you bend towards you. How do you know if companies sell the PE separately? Just in case you F up yours, you need a replacement. Well, like if you buy an aftermarket PE set, like the Big Ed set here, you can buy each one of these sets individually, and then you don't have to buy a new kit. But as of for the PE that comes in the kit, guess you could try to buy it online from somebody that didn't use their PE. I don't know if the actual manufacturers that make the kits sell their PE separately, but I know there's a lot of aftermarket PE upgrades and stuff that you can just buy. Another thing is you don't have to use the PE in a kit. A lot of times there's options to where you don't need PE. Like, for example, on my tack-on Panther kit, it comes with some PE grills, and that's it. It comes with 6 PE grills, and that's the only PE on the whole kit. And I wanted to add some detail like tool clamps and Zimmerit and some exterior details and some interior details like the radio and the driver's compartment. So I got this aftermarket PE kit, and basically if I mess it up, I just get another kit, I guess, or not worry about it. So when you buy an aftermarket kit, the pieces you use are optional. If you only want to use some of it, then use some of it. If you mess up a piece, you just, go without it, make it look like it was missing, it was damaged. You're missing a piece on like a piece of a fender, you mess up a fender, well, that adds to realism. Fenders get banged up and bent up, so just go with that. You're building a ship, and you mess up some of the guardrails. I know you can buy aftermarket guardrails, but you can mangle them up because ships take battle damage. Especially if it's one that sunk or seen combat. They're not going to be pristine and shiny unless that's what you're going for. So let's talk about what we have here. So we have this part, and now we need a 90-degree bend. So we're going to bend it towards me. Now, we have a couple options for this. If you're doing a simple kit, like one of these tack-on kits or something that doesn't have sheets of PE, you probably don't need a bender. Actually, I'm going to say a good chunk of it, unless you're doing long bends, you're not going to need a bender. So I'm going to show you how to bend this without a bender. So you can take your Tamiya bending pliers right here, and then you can place this on the line and bend it that way. You can use the longer ones, place that on the line, and flip it up. You can do that. Or you can do the same thing with the Zurons, or you can take your glass photo etch cutter, which is another reason I like the glass for this reason here. And you can lay the photo etch on there, and you can take a straight edge, and you can line it up like so. And then you can take a hobby blade, slide it under there, which this one's not going to work because it's. Let's try this one. And you can slide it under there and fold it up. This is not the best straight edge for that. So you can do it like that. But I'm going to do these Tamiya bending pliers right here. So I'm just going to take it. Heck, if you have straight tweezers long enough, you can use a pair of straight tweezers. And this line pretty much is a huge assist in the bending. This is super hard without an optimizer on. And then basically just bend it up by 90 degrees. So there it is, right there. So that's basically cutting it out and making a simple bend. And honestly, on this King Tiger kit, which is, over 1,250 parts, I think simple one bend things are the most complex thing. There are a little bit of curves in the turret And we'll get into, I don't know if we're going to get into curves, but that's basically this part done. It took a long time because I was explaining, but that's basically that. Now, another thing that I want to show you is gluing on a piece of photo etch. So I'm going to get my project mat out here that I've been working on all day, and I have to glue on a brass cap on the back of this bundle of ammunition. Now, I could sit here and I could put some super glue on there, and I could come in here with my tweezers and I could get it, and then I could sit it, and then, swap between the glue and all that stuff. But I had a lot of these to glue up. I had, all this on this one, all this on this one, and then I have more. How I approach something like this with a bunch of little photo etch in a small area is I have a vise that I use for just tons and tons of stuff, and I take some poster tack with my little block I made, and just some white poster tack. I stick it onto my block, and then I will stick that. Oh, that's not the one. There it is. I will stick that in there like that, and that will hold it. And then on top of my vise, I have a little bottle cap poster tacked, and that's what I keep my super glue in. So I use, water bottle caps. I didn't talk about it in tools, but I use water bottle caps to hold my super glue. And if you notice, I keep the vise slightly angled so the super glue runs into the corner that I can get to it easily. Now, I forgot to talk about a fantastic tool. And this is a must, I think, for photo etch. You can buy wax pencils and China pencils to pick up photo etch, but I got this at, some craft store in the jewelry bejeweler section. It's all fancy with its little gems and crystals in it, but it's a wax tip that you touch the photo etch with, and it basically picks it up, and then you can place it onto the model. So, and then on the other side, it has a nice stainless steel piece that you can actually push the part down. So we will, I'm going to flip one of these over. That there, so we got that, and we're going to put a little bit of, I'm going to use the thick CA. I'm going to put a little bit of thick in there. And like I said, I keep it at an angle like that so it all stays in a bundle there, and I will use the glue looper, the little glue looper right there, and then I will attempt to do this without the optimizer on so I can see. Normally I do this under magnification, or better magnification. So I'm going to take my glue on my glue looper, and I'm going to rub it on the spot. Now, because it's thick glue, it will take a little bit to set, and I will pick up my part with my wax. I'll place it, tape it down. And there we go. We glued a piece of photo etch. Now, what's nice about these glue loopers, if they get all dirty and marred up, you just take a lighter and you just burn it out and you're good. It's brand new. It's a little darkened color difference. But that's that. Like I said, you can use a thin pinning wire for doing that, for applying the glue. or you can use a sewing needle with the top of the eye cut out. You cut that with a Dremel. But if you're gluing a bunch of photo etch, like I think there's 96 of the, or 76 of these brass caps I got to put on the back of this ammunition along with decals, but that's a different episode. And just a little fixture like this, I was able to knock out the little bit I have here in 10, 15 minutes. Cutting them out and cleaning up the pieces took longer. But that's basically, and you know, I use just this, this is a piece of 2-part epoxy that I just mixed up into a square. I can clamp it different ways and stick poster tack to it. And I just keep it off to the side for various uses. So that is that. That's the placement tool. Now I want to show you cutting out a small piece. Now, as I said, a big piece wouldn't be too much to cut out, but these little small cap pieces are tiny, and if I just cut, it's going to ping off and be gone. So right now, this one's still connected by 2 points, so I can go in and I can hopefully see. And I'm doing it on the acrylic this time, and I can cut the little bit off of there, and then I can come in here and hold down the piece I'm cutting off, and because this is clear, I can still see my part. And there I was able to cut at an angle, so there's going to be very little cleanup. And then I do the same thing here, hold down my part. And then now my little brass cap is free. And you can lick your finger and pick it up, you know, but I don't do that. And as you can see, that's gonna need very little cleanup. I know it's tiny and hard to see, but that's a small piece. That's how you would do that. And that's done on the acrylic. The acrylic's nice. I wish I had a thicker piece, but you know, like I said, you can make this. I just cut a piece off and then just some epoxy sculpt, Abe's epoxy sculpt. Made a little holder for it. They sell a set of this exact thing, just looks nicer, for $30 to $40, and I think it's outrageous waste of money. They also sell a little thing for rolling out photo etch to make round pieces, and it's like $40, and all it is some dowels and a piece of foam. So you can work it out, and this way you get different thicknesses of foam. So now, if you have seat belts or a railing on a boat, and you're worried about it being fragile and breaking, you can anneal brass. Now, this is specific to brass. This isn't for other metals. What you're going to want to do is you can anneal it to make it soft, and it will bend pretty easily. And I'm going to get a piece of scrap off of here. I'm going to cut me a piece, and this time I'm going to show you with the little photo etch shears. So I'm going to cut this off here. Now, as you can see here, this is pretty. If I tried to bend that, it would break, and you really can't shape it like a seatbelt or anything because it's just too fragile. But what I can do is, see, now I was prepared until now. I could take this right here and hold this, and I can heat this up. myself, heat it up. Get it nice and hot. Super hot. Keep it moving. You don't want to keep it all in one spot. You want it to change color. And then you dip it in water. Let that cool down. Probably shouldn't have dipped that in my paint water. But, oh well. Oh, it's still hot. Wow. Okay, so now that's cooled down. So now, as you can see, it is super. I was able to bend that into an S. And then I can straighten it back out. I can do, I can bend it, I can shape it, I can twist it, and then I can straighten it right back out. Boom. And it's like this. I can't do that with this. See, if I tried to bend this, see how it makes kinks, and then I try to straighten it out, it still has the kinks in it. But by annealing this side, I'm able to bend it, twist it, and this is what you want to do with your brass seat belts. If you get your photo etch seat belts in your aircraft, this is what you want to do. You want to anneal it, and then you can shape it. I would imagine doing railings on ships would be good to anneal them so they're less likely to break when you're trying to make bends or go around corners and things like that. So that's annealing. You can, I was honestly surprised I was able to do it with the lighter, to be honest with you. I thought I was going to have to get the torch. But you don't want to overheat it because you can melt the brass if you get it too hot. So that's annealing. Repairing photo etch, I really don't have, other than super gluing it or kind of attaching it with some other photo etch pieces from behind where it's not going to be seen, and maybe shaping the crack and things like that. I'm super careful with my photo etch. I have broken photo etch, and I've just turned it into a damaged part. So the repairing of the photo etch, I really don't have a lot of options. You might be able to solder a crack together and then sand it out and reshape it. Different aspects like that. So that's that. And then now let's talk about prep for painting. Paint has a little bit of issues of sticking to photo etch. You definitely want to prime it. Mr. Hobby makes a metal primer. You can brush that on your photo etch. I hit mine with some, this is some 1800, and I was going to paint this, just mark it up a little bit, probably with something a little rougher than 1800. Hit it with some Mr. Surfacer 1500, something like that, and that normally works pretty good. But I found this is what I brush on my photo etch before I paint. This is Tamiya's liquid surface primer. It is basically, there's not a brush in here. It's a lacquer type paint. It smells to high heaven. I'm not even sure if it's a lacquer paint, but I wouldn't spray it through an airbrush because it's pretty tough to clean up. So wouldn't recommend spraying it through an airbrush. But yeah, I brush this on to my photo etch before I paint it with anything else, and I don't tend to have issues with it coming off my photo etch. So that's a good recommendation on the Tamiya liquid surface primer. This is the G variant, which is gray. They have different colors, but this is what I use. I don't normally do a whole lot of worrying about the painting of the photo edge. Normally, the Mr. Surfacer or all-clad microfiller primer, I haven't really had an issue. But if I think I'm going to have an issue or it's going to be handled a lot, I'll use this Tamiya liquid surface primer. So that's basically prep for fading. And now I just want to talk about steel photo etch. There are kits out there that are made out of stainless steel. And they are photo etch and they are stainless steel. And they will damage tools. Don't try to cut them with a scalpel blade because you're going to slip and cut yourself. They're not going to form the same way. They're not going to manipulate. You can't anneal them like brass. You have to. It's a whole other annealing process to make them soft. Pretty much the only way to cut them is with the Xuron shears or like metal cutters. But there are like metal earth kits. They're all stainless steel photo etch. And it's different. It's not the same as the brass or nickel alloy that you get with your model kits. So that's basically all of my talking points that I have on my photo etch. If you guys have any questions, you can send me an email at crazygamermodels@gmail.com. And if you have questions, I'll address it on Feedback Fridays when that starts. If you're interested in any other information on photo etch, leave a comment in the comments and I'll get back to you. Or like I said, send me that email. Photo etch isn't something to be scared of. It's not. Like I said, in the beginning, I was scared of it, and then I bought some of these 1/700th kits because they're cheap. And we'll just take a look at one of these real quick. This is a service crane, and I mean, basically it's tiny, but I think these are like $3 at my hobby store. And basically, I would just build it. If I messed it up, it was $3 and I didn't care. But let me show. You can see how tiny everything it is. I mean, these pieces right here. These are train car wheels, and these are parts of train cars. This is the crane. So, and then this is 1/700th scale. As you can see, there's the people right there. How tiny they are. They're like probably 5mm by 2mm. So, what that was. So that is my primer on photo etch. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I am going to attempt to release an edited version of this that's a little bit shorter and a little bit more to the point. Thank you guys for stopping by. John, Tank Brusher Scale Models, JD Rose, Love Minis. Thank you guys for commenting. I hope you guys jump into the world of photo etch. I enjoy it. I like it very much. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. You guys all have a fantastic day. And I will see you in the next.